You know, that haunting line? It comes from a man who had absolutely everything and then lost it all. It's a pretty stark reminder that sometimes the person who's most responsible for our downfall, well, it's us.
So today, we're diving into the brilliant world of the legendary author Munshi Premchand to explore this really profound idea he called Apni Karni, which basically means one's own deeds. We're going to look at two of his classic stories to see how the choices of two very different men lead them down these dramatically different paths. One goes to ruin, and the other to reward. So here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll kick things off by defining what this whole idea is about. Then we'll meet our two main guys. After that, we're going to pinpoint the exact choices that sealed their fates, trace what happened next, and then finally unpack the timeless lesson about, the weight of our own actions.
All right, so what's the big idea that ties these two powerful stories together? Let's get right to the heart of it.
At its core, Apni Karni is really all about accountability. It's this simple but powerful principle that what we do matters, and that ultimately, we are the architects of our own lives. Think of it as the moral compass for the two guys we're about to meet, a kind of universal law of cause and effect playing out in their everyday choices.
Okay, let's start with our first character, the narrator from the story Apni Karni. Now, if you just looked at his life on the surface, you'd think it was the very definition of perfect. And I mean seriously, this man had it all. He came from a noble family. He was highly educated, handsome, rich, and in perfect health. He even had what he himself calls a devoted wife and two rose blossom-like children. Just about every blessing you can imagine was handed to him on a silver platter. He was a man who lacked for absolutely nothing. And yet, there was this deep restlessness just eating away at him. He even admits he didn't really value these heavenly blessings. Boredom, maybe a lack of purpose, it pushed him to go look for thrills somewhere else, which, as you'll see, set the stage for his own self-destruction. Now, for a really powerful contrast, let's turn to our second protagonist. This is Seth Purushottam Das from the story The Orphan Girl. Now, he too is a wealthy and respected man, but his whole character is just fundamentally different. See, unlike our first narrator, the Seth's defining trait isn't his privilege, it's his compassion. The story literally says that compassion was abundant in his nature. He doesn't find his purpose in selfish pleasure, but in selfless generosity. And this is where you can see the whole conflict laid out perfectly. Both men start from a place of power and comfort, right? But their focus is completely different. One is looking inward, totally consumed by his own selfish desires, while the other is looking outward, moved by the needs of other people. One neglects the family he was born with, while the other ends up building a new one, all through an act of kindness. So, this brings us to the fork in the road. For each of these men, there is a single, fateful moment, a choice that ends up setting the course for the rest of their lives. For the narrator of Apni Karni, that moment happens in a garden. He sees Fulmati, who's the gardener's daughter, and he's just overcome, not by love, but by lust. I mean, listen to his own words. They just reveal how cold and calculated his intentions were. He even sets up this whole fake rescue, using his bulldog to scare her, just so he can swoop in and play the hero. His choice to go after her is completely self-serving, just an act to satisfy some fleeting desire, with zero thought for the consequences. Now contrast that with the choice made by Seth Purushottam Das. His big moment also involves a young girl, an orphan named Rohini, who just clings to him after he visits her school. Her simple plea to be his daughter, it just touches his heart. This is what he thinks to himself. See, his choice isn't about what he can get, it's about what he can give. It's this spontaneous, empathetic decision to take responsibility for her future, and it's born from genuine kindness and a desire to nurture the dreams of a child who has no one else. Okay, so the seeds have been planted, one of desire, one of compassion. Now, it's time to see what kind of harvest they produce. For the narrator, the downfall is swift and it is brutal. His affair just bleeds his bank account dry and pushes his family away. Then he and Pulmati get caught in the royal garden by the Maharaja himself, and his public humiliation is complete. The Maharaja is so disgusted, he revokes his ancestral stipend and gives it directly to his wife. Stripped of his money, his status, and his family, the narrator basically exiles himself to Bombay, a broken man working in a mill. But on the flip side, The Seth's one act of compassion just blossoms into a lifetime of good. He pays for Rohini's education, and she grows up to be this remarkable young woman. She becomes like a daughter to his wife, and eventually she marries the Seth's own son, uniting two families and completing this amazing circle of kindness that all started with a single heartfelt choice.
So, what's Premchand's central timeless message in all of this? Well, it's really about the incredible power we all hold over our own lives. I mean, when you just lay it all out like this, the lesson couldn't be clearer, right? The narrator's selfish indulgence led him straight to loss, exile, and a life full of regret. And in stark contrast, Seth Purushottamdas's selfless compassion created this amazing legacy of happiness and brought his family even closer together. And that's the ultimate irony here, isn't it? The man who was born with a perfect family threw it all away for a moment of selfish pleasure. The other man, through a single act of generosity, built a new, loving family that was founded on compassion. One destroyed, the other created. And that leaves us with a question that echoes from Premchand's time all the way to our own. These stories, they aren't just fiction. They're like mirrors reflecting a fundamental truth. Our lives are the sum of our choices, the big ones and the small ones. So it's worth asking ourselves, what seeds are we planting today? And what kind of harvest will they yield?